My name's Eliot Pence. I'm the CEO founder of Dominion Dynamics. Dominion Dynamics is a systems integrator for Canada. We're focused on Arctic domain awareness. We're almost a year old. What is ahead is we're building a drone and we're building an Arctic surveillance network. Going forward, I think Canada can bring a sense of innovation to defense in the same way that it did in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. We've got incredible AI talent. We've got great autonomy talent. We build a lot of the IP, the foundation models for that. We now just need to grow the companies that leverage that IP. I think we're re-embracing something that has always been here. We had it 400 years ago. We'll have it for the next 400. I hope to be a small part of that.
I mean, Eliot, you said you came straight from the airport to Startwell for us to sit down today. So that's awesome being the first stop.
Yeah.
What are you in town for and where'd you come from?
Here for Toronto Tech Week. Got a few events today, tomorrow, the next day. But coming in from Washington, D.C. So I've been based in D.C. for 20 years.
So you've seen the changes in D.C.
Yes. Yes. Some good, some bad.
Yeah.
But the family's moving up to Ottawa in a couple months' time, mid-July.
Nice.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
When was the last time you lived in Canada?
2005.
Wow. That's when I moved to Toronto from New York.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, it's been a long time. I mean, obviously I go back every year. My family's in Victoria and still go there a bunch. But yeah, living in Canada, it's been a minute.
Wow. Nice. Excited?
Very excited. My family's very excited. My 5-year-old and 2-year-old daughters they love Canada. They really only know the west coast of Canada. So they haven't experienced an East Coast winter. We'll see if they're excited about that, but they love the West Coast in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we're all super pumped.
Nice, man. And was the context to move back this company that
Dominion?
We're talking
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Is that what your t-shirt says, by the way?
It does.
Look at that. You're such a startup kid, man.
I know.
I love it.
You always be closing, I suppose. But this is a unique shirt in the sense that it's the font of Canadair, which is one of my favorite Canadian companies. No longer exists, but a big aerospace defense company. This is not actually our logo, but yeah. So we're pumped about it. We are coming back to Canada to build a company. You can't build a Canadian company without living in Canada.
There you go.
I think, it's fairly straightforward, but yeah.
So what is Dominion?
So what we're trying to be is Canada's national systems integrator. Every country, every NATO country has a defense company that effectively does everything that the country asks of it. So it works across domains from space to subsea. And their job is not to make everything, but to integrate everything for the specific use case of the country. We have not had that. We have great companies, MDA and Bombardier and de Havilland and others.
Yeah.
The closest thing that we have to a systems integrator is probably MDA. But that is our intention, is to build the final product, to engage across all domains, to have software developers, to have hardware folks working on an end product. We're buying subs and F-35s and Gripens, etc. We want to be the company that builds that next time.
Okay, let's go further for the normies, okay? Including myself.
Yeah.
So paint the picture of how government procurement of technology or other things that you would be integrating and working on happens, and what they're buying, who they buy from.
Yeah.
And then what the internal capacity of the government is and where the threshold of pain lies that external vendors like yourself will come in to help.
So the government procurement hasn't really worked for the last 2.5 decades. We've been trying to buy drones for 20 years, fighter jets for 16 years. And it really resides within one agency, PSPC.
Okay. What does that stand for?
The Public Services Procurement Canada.
Okay.
There's, I think, over 15,000 employees, and they're basically doing all purchasing for the government. It made a lot of sense, and continues in some way to make a lot of sense, because when you're purchasing on bulk, you can get a better price.
Right.
And so that was the fundamental logic, is you're using the taxpayer money in a more efficient way.
Sure.
The challenge now,
Like
especially
for pencils and staplers.
yes, exactly. Right. You want to buy 1 million of them, like get the unit price down.
Yeah.
But for defense, it doesn't really work that well. And specifically for modern defense. So what you see in the wars in Ukraine and elsewhere is the need, the propensity to acquire things very quickly, because the technology is changing. Technology gives you an edge against your adversary. So you really need a nimble way to procure things, such that you're keeping up with warfare, basically.
Sure.
And that is what the Defense Investment Agency, so a new agency is being set up now, that has been hived off of PSBC. That is the hope for that agency.
Okay, so procurement is being handled by a specific function of the government focused on defense.
Yeah, exactly. And this, for what it's worth, every country tends to treat the procurement of defense articles differently than, pencils or paper or whatever, or trucks.
Yeah, if it's going to save our lives as Canadians,
Yeah.
You need people stamping that paper who understand what they're buying.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not without precedent and not without good reason.
Yeah.
I think the challenge for the new agency is, can it staff up quickly? Can it actually acquire things quickly? And can it give the warfighter, the soldier, things that work? And then lastly, it's, how do you procure from Canada? The Prime Minister has been pretty clear that he wants to adjust procurement to Canadian companies. That won't happen overnight. You need to build that kind of muscle, but
meaning on the supply side.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about the current state from your lens of the Canadian defense industry, from actually manufacturing and supply side. What do we make in Canada? Yeah. And how concentrated is that with the few vendors or brands that you mentioned?
Yeah. So we actually make a lot of things. We produce a lot of the subcomponents in the F-35, for example. We will be producing stuff that goes into the subs that we purchase. So submarines that we purchase.
Cool.
Submarines are control cool. Yes, exactly. We build tanks. We build land vehicles. We build satellites. We build a lot. The issue is that we don't own the end platform,
right?
And so we don't really control where it goes with the market, et cetera. We are essentially in hoc to the end system, the systems integrator, basically. So there's, I think, over 600 domestic defense companies in Canada.
Okay.
Across the country. And so it's not really about kind of building an entirely new sector. It's about giving them the capital, giving them the customer, Canada as the customer, so that they can have the ambition to build the end thing. And then we can compete with the Lockheeds or with the Andurils or with our, RTXs of the world.
So the role of this new department is office,
Defense Investment Agency.
Yeah. Would be more than just procurement. It's about concerting the efforts and developing the capacities of the supply side.
Yeah, exactly. So the administration, the Liberal government, drafted and then issued the Defense Industrial Strategy a couple of months ago. It's a 50-page document that basically outlines, here's what we're going to do, here's who we're going to do it with, and here's how we're going to do it.
Okay.
And a lot of what you just mentioned is in that document of, here are the sectors that matter. Here's the agencies that will be responsible for it. And here's the kind of critical components and technology areas that Canada needs to have,
right,
independent of any foreign suppliers, basically.
Okay. So then this company of yours, Dominion.
Yeah.
When did you found it?
D-Day 2025, so June 6, 2025, about almost a year ago.
And leading up to its foundation, is this something that you had been planning for?
Look, I had been wanting to do something in Canada, frankly, my entire professional life. I spent the last 2 decades building companies in the US. Canada had not been really a customer for defense stuff. Trump gets elected, that changes basically overnight. So I start kind of writing about what I think Canada can do and should do. That gets into the hands of some of the policymakers here. And it becomes quite clear that the way to change what I thought needed to happen was to start a company. It was not to write memos or briefings or whatever. It's just to do the thing that I was saying we should do.
Right. Yeah, because it's until you know it's possible.
Yeah.
And I think what's the macro level, if you're going to zoom out on that, on just that little learning, right? The motivation to start a company,
Yeah.
to solve the problems that you see a need for solutions in. What's the unlock for anyone that might be listening or watching, thinking about whatever industry they're in, and like just throwing stones on like no one doing it?
Yeah. What's the unlock for that?
What's the unlock for motivating them to say, hey, well, maybe we can do it. Maybe instead of throwing stones, they can actually build something.
I think you just got to go from having kind of an idea to having conviction to actually, I mean, in the next step is really raising the capital so you can, do things,
Right.
You can build things, you can hire people, et cetera. But the idea to conviction that I think that transition is hard. And then for me, it was idea, conviction, and then it felt like a real purpose, like a mission. I needed to do this, not just something that, oh, this would be fun and interesting. It felt like I needed to do this. And once you reach the point of, oh, the purpose is there and the mission is there, then it becomes pretty clear because it's such a blindingly obvious thing. And you become passionate about it. The narrative kind of gets crystallized. You get other people involved. Thankfully, in Canada, I think there's a lot of good angel investors. So I went on Twitter and DM'd a bunch of Canadian founders and was like, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I want to do. And it was well received. So
you got your seed capital from independent people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you say founders. So we're thinking software guys.
Software guys. The Build Canada group is great. This guy, Dan DeBow, who's sort of like the kind of Quincy Jones of early stage startups in Canada.
Dan DeBow.
I DM'd Aiden and Ivan at Cohere.
Okay.
And they were super receptive. I mean, again, like there is a sense of like entrepreneurs have to support entrepreneurs in Canada.
Right. It's interesting though, because I would have thought, especially given the domain that you're playing in, that it would be a pass the hat, Ottawa, Canada thing with like the old guys who made
the old guard. Yeah.
I met a dude once. This is like a long time ago, 15 years ago or something. 12 years ago in Ottawa. I think I was judging a startup competition. I might have been at IBM at the time. And I had a chat with a chap who owned a manufacturing company that made like radar, would it be radar systems, sonar systems for the American Navy. And that was like their client. And he's like, I make about $15 million a year in net profit. My sons are not interested in this business. And it's not something I can easily sell with good conscience because the wrong buyer will buy it. Would you like to take it over? And I was like, man, it's not my industry. And I was younger at the time.
There's tons of businesses like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's insane. And they're world-class companies, world-class tech.
Right.
I mean, the history of the Ottawa tech scene, going back to like BNR and Nortel and all those, there are incredible companies in Ottawa. I think it truly is like one of the hidden secrets of Canada and North America that we have such talent in that city.
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously you've got others like the Spotify's and the Turbo Buffer and stuff like that. But yeah, I think there is a entrepreneurs need to help entrepreneurs vibe in Canada, which you obviously have in Silicon Valley as well. But that gave me a bit more confidence that, we can actually do this thing.
And tied to the momentum of this new industrialist perspective, like the young guys that want to make change, that are perhaps at the top of their game in the industry they're playing in on a global level, being based here and wanting change.
Totally. Yeah. And not wanting to go back to history for history's sake, wanting to kind of take the good things of what we did, take the ambition, take the kind of expertise, but supplant it with new capital, new supply chains, new ways of doing things. I think that's totally right.
Okay, so the company gets founded. You're preparing to move here, and the government is more receptive to working in your sector collaboratively with it. So the problems that you are setting up to solve will hopefully the approach to them will become easier, right?
Theoretically, yeah.
Okay. What do you see as the major roadblocks to the next like couple of years for you?
Yeah, look, I think the thing that we are trying to solve, we're trying to change the country. And specifically, we're trying to build technology that allows us to see, hear, detect things in the Arctic.
Okay.
Um, we talk a lot about the 10, 12, and 2 problem in the Arctic. We don't really know what's going on. And there's a lot of real
Sorry,
threats.
what's the 12, 10, and 2? I don't understand.
So if you look out on, say, a clock all the way up from here, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 2 o'clock, those are basically aerial threats that come in from those vectors. That's what we're trying to figure out is, can we see enough soon enough so that we can protect North America?
Okay.
And that happens, you have sensors in space, you have sensors in the sky, you have sensors on the ground, you have sensors underneath, the ice in the maritime space, and trying to basically complete that, build a curtain around the Arctic so that you at least know what's happening.
Right.
That's our main focus.
Okay. So when you're talking about like systems integration, it's really just about data harmonization as well as ensuring that the sources of data are pervasive enough to give the greatest picture, cohesive picture of
precisely
of the Arctic.
Yeah.
How is that defense mandate integrated with other mandates for the region?
You're talking about like, what are the territories saying? What are the indigenous groups saying? What are the
ice melting and all sorts of things?
Yeah,
how is that data useful that you're
hugely useful? I mean, one of the things about the Arctic is that's a bit of a misnomer, is to think that it's sort of a static environment. It's really not. It's changing rapidly every day.
Literally,
they talk about the Arctic breathing. The permafrost kind of goes up and down quite frequently. Obviously, the ice is melting, the Northwest Passage is opening up. This is one of the reasons why we need more domain awareness. It's not just about aerial threats or subs under the ice. It's the subtle changes in the environment are creating an operating environment for actors that we may or may not want up there. So yeah, a lot of what we're doing is trying to get a sense of the slow moving things, but also the fast moving things.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Okay, and then there's two sides to this, right? Because as the Northwest Passage opens, there's a question of also tourism.
Yep.
Right. And the push to make Canada kind of more accessible to people who want adventure tourism. Is that realistic? Is that going to happen, do you think?
I think it's a smaller chapter in what's going on. I'm not sure if it's really driving a lot of the decision making. But yeah, I think it will. I mean, you already see sort of tourism and exploring happening, but it's not what's driving us, at least.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's take a look at the task ahead for you. It looks like there's a lot of probably legacy technology that's littered throughout that territory. So is it the responsibility of your company, or will it be to upgrade that technology, assess it first?
Yeah.
Or is that being done internally on the government side?
Well, certainly government has been working on it. So just to be explicit about the reference, we used to have something called the DEW line, which was basically a set of, I think it was Raytheon radars that was essentially looking at the sky, trying to monitor IBSM or ballistic missile threats across the Arctic. Those were decommissioned maybe a decade ago or so, and we haven't replaced it. So there's a whole program called NORAD modernization. NORAD's a collaboration between the U.S. and Canada to protect the Arctic and the threats coming over the Arctic. And so it's a $50 billion program. People are doing it. There's sub-programs underway. There's contractors that have been hired and contracted. We will be a small piece of that. We intend to be a small piece of that, but it's a broader kind of North American security strategy for sure.
Right. So it's assessing the current tech that it hasn't been used for 10 years, upgrading what needs to be done,
Yeah.
and then implementing a ton of new stuff, probably, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that Canadian companies are already doing, like Kepler and MDA and Wyvern and others, is how do you do missile detection from space? Canada has a rich history of innovation in space. It can be the first cue. It can be the first identifier of something that's happening, and it can cue something else, a kinetic defeat mechanism from the ground, potentially. So yeah, there's a whole new domain.
Do we have low orbit satellites, or we just rent space on other people's?
We have Telesat, and we have the ambition. Telesat's got a program called Lightspeed to do LEO, principally from a comms perspective. But a lot of what this government has come in to do is to say launch is a critical sovereign capability that we don't have, we haven't had, we need to have that. So they funded 3 companies to essentially create small and medium lift capacity to push things up into low Earth orbit.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's happening. People are going to start launching Canadian,
We've allocated $200 million to help these companies do that. We need to.
How much?
$200 million.
Sorry, how much?
Yeah, but actually,
that's a house in Rosedale these days.
Yeah, right.
That's like
right, exactly. We need 10x more than that.
Yeah, that's not enough.
That's not enough. Right.
That's horrible. But I mean, at the same time, this stuff's super expensive, and what's sad, and I want to kind of like zoom out a little bit too, is what seems ridiculous in today's modern age, right? Is that we're not in an age of massive international collaboration around the tech utopia that could be born from so much value that has been created in the past few decades since, let's say, the birth of Silicon Valley, right? It's only been like, 3 decades really that like stuff has accelerated so crazy.
Yeah.
We have poverty and all this civil strife all over the world instead of harmony and opportunity. So, I think, what can Canada in its approach from your angle in the next few years do to communicate how the defense story is also one that enables us to be collaborative with the world?
Well, I think there's 2 parts to this question. One, I think the Prime Minister has articulated pretty clearly. I think there's a lot to be done within the middle powers. And the collaboration that you're talking about actually could exist between the middle powers, the NATO alliance, perhaps sans US currently, but potentially in the future. So I think that's part of it, is revitalizing those alliances that have been kind of in name only, not in practice. I think the second part of it is, when you look at the history of defense innovation and the economic multiplier that it creates, Silicon Valley is the consequence of largely defense investment. And here in Canada, we had an enormous amount of innovation that was primarily defense oriented, but created dual use or non-defense capabilities. Like, we created the first passenger jet. We had the first 2 drones. We had an autonomous submarine. We did a lot that had obvious defense application, but in modern society has very different applications. So I think the history of defense investing in this country is actually one of dual use investing as well.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Anything that pushes the fold for technological evolution will have so many ripple effects, one hopes.
Yes.
In the private sector as well, right? And spawn new
industries.
Activity, new industries.
Yeah.
What's your lens on Canada's kind of like technical competency? Before we jumped on camera, we were talking about you guys are hiring.
Yeah.
So you're looking to grow your team. As you look out there at the talent pool in Canada,
it's incredible. I mean, as I said, I hadn't really lived here for 20 years, but if you look across the spectrum, let's take AI for a minute. 10% of the most cited papers are from Canadians.
Wow.
We have 0.5% of the population in the world. We are massively out. We're in a completely different weight class here, and we're punching above our weight. That's the idiom I was trying to find.
Yeah. A bunch of broke ass intellectuals over here.
Yeah, exactly. Right. This is the challenge, is how do you, how do you generate the IP? We don't seem to have a problem doing that.
Yeah.
Where the challenge is how do you keep it in Canada? How do you commercialize it? How do you build the end product or build the global company? You obviously have, the Shopifys of the world, the Coheres, the Wobbies and stuff like that, but we probably need 50 more of those to really be kind of leaders. And this is what the government is intending to work on, is how do you keep that here? You've got incredible quantum companies as a good case in point, Xanadu and others.
Yeah, I was talking to someone about that yesterday. I was trying to explain quantum and particularly how theoretical physics can launch companies onto a public stock exchange and have people invest in such a, experimental potentiality.
Yeah.
And how that's being politically pinned, I don't mean the government, but I mean kind of like in common parlance, it's being pinned against the compute power innovation in GPUs.
Yeah.
And I just find it so hilarious that we're at this point in humanity,
Yeah.
or in technology.
Yep.
It's a crazy time. But you're right. For a lot of that technology, even if it's theoretical or otherwise, to be developed here, is quite compelling. So when you look at individuals that your company can hire, are you finding that you're hitting both of those things? One, the commitment to be here to build something that is building the country, and two, the technical competency. I'm going to throw a third one, the willingness to learn, because we're talking about emergent stuff as well.
Yeah. Across all three, yes. I would add additional. We're finding Canadians that want to come back to Canada.
Okay, that's interesting. Like yourself.
Like myself, but also, we hired from Tesla, from Rivian, from AWS, from Google, from Cape, from a bunch of companies that, these are ambitious Canadians that want to work for an ambitious company. So yeah, we definitely see confidence, willingness to learn, a desire to build something big and transformative. Talent is not going to be our issue. It's going to be, frankly, like believing in ourselves, like getting the different tranches of capital from angel to venture to growth to, broader, to say, no, like we need to do this. We can do this. We have the people here willing to do this today.
Yeah.
I think that's where, frankly, the US and Canada differ so much, as the US has like a fundamental belief in their entrepreneurs and founders. And Canada hasn't, for the last few decades, had really a founder entrepreneur mindset, and hasn't done a whole lot to back them, despite having a lot.
100%. No, it's so true. We're like the antithesis to, and also I think this is something that's difficult in Canada. Like 9 out of 10 conversations involve some level of political rhetoric or the government when you talk to Canadians.
Yeah.
And look, there's case for it, because if you look at how much of the population is hired by some level of government, it's actually a higher number than most countries in the world, right?
Yeah.
Our government is big.
Yep. It's huge.
Across all municipal, federal.
Well, federal, and I was just going to say municipal, federal, provincial.
Yeah.
You add that all up, it's massive. Yeah.
And so it's really interesting, because I think in most places that are untethered from the necessity of interacting with government to affect any change in society, like I used to live in East Africa. Yeah. And I lived there under the second dictator in power, right? I almost said Moi Kibaki, who was the first
Museveni.
Yoweri Museveni is not in Kenya. Kenya was
Idi Amin, or
no, that's Uganda. That's Uganda. No. Who am I thinking? It's been so long. Daniel Arap Moi, the man with the stick. Yeah. Daniel Arap Moi was the second president of Kenya after Kenyatta. Yeah, founding father of the nation. But yeah, we moved there in 92 from Calgary. And it was crazy because I was like 11.
Wow.
Turning 12. And it was a dictatorship. A box of imported cornflakes was $20.
Wow.
Which by today's standards maybe sounds not that off, but it's crazy back then, because the cereal box was like $3, right? And it was a crazy different society. But what I learned in those young years, seeing how that emergent economy was moving at that time, this is something that most of the world doesn't understand, is that region, the kind of like post-colonial nations of Africa in that time, were majoritively reliant on donor money.
Right.
Right. So like the Western world, MDCs, what do you want to call it, around the world would kitty up some funds through whatever distributaries they had created institutionally to give these countries money to develop their economies ultimately and move towards democracy.
Yeah.
And it's funny to think just a couple decades later, if you look at the economic success in those regions, and how it's totally the opposite now.
Yeah.
And they've grown all these sectors of the economy that create momentum.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Service sectors ultimately.
Yeah.
And so when I was young, I saw the ability to do that ahead of it happening just in the informal economy of the country as well.
Yeah.
Right? So in Kenya, we have this phrase in Swahili called jua kali.
Mm-hmm.
It's people who work under the hot sun. Literally, that's the translation. Jua is sun and kali is fierce.
Mm-hmm.
And so you look at resilience, the ability for people to create out of nothing. And they only create out of nothing, not for a hope of a better future and a check that's down the line, but for the ability to just manifest and create something, right?
Totally.
So I saw that, and I see that momentum in the African economy across the continent.
Yeah.
Plus its ability to work with, for better or worse, right? But like global powers that seemingly enable, let's call it infrastructure development.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to bring that from me, the legacy kind of perspective of change in the 90s in Africa home to Canada now and being a business person. And I look around and I think, why don't we have, it's good that your investors come from, different industries and they're software guys, because a story we don't tell often enough is about collaboration. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And it's about the private sector looking to come together to create opportunity for the whole nation.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree. I mean, maybe Canada's having its Africa moment. I do feel like there is a kind of a new dawn for the country, and it looks like it's becoming a little bit more dynamic and emergent and founder friendly. I mean, Africa has, had an incredible 2-3 decades of up and down growth, but the entrepreneurs are unbelievable in Africa for sure.
Right? It's that whole thing of like kind of, okay, well, I'm not going to obsess over what I'm not allowed to do when I'm incapacitated by, because that's not part of my mentality. Yeah. If I'm going from true zero to hero, not from my mom's couch. Yeah. Yeah. Because you're not at zero.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's, in the African continent, the constraints kind of create the opportunity. You don't have abundance. So if you're going to do something, you've got to do it with limited amount of resources and just fundamentally your own ingenuity. I've had a chance to work on the continent as well. And
where did you work?
I lived in Nairobi.
There you go. When did you live in Nairobi?
2005. So for about a year. Yeah.
Amazing. What were you doing there?
I was working for something called the Africa Virtual University. So it was the first massive open online course.
Okay.
Did that for a year. And then I have a venture fund called Tavino Capital. We've done about 40 investments, principally in Africa, actually.
Wow.
And my mother's South African as well. So,
there you go.
Africa. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah. No, it's a big part of me, obviously. So I have a lot of time and respect and admiration for, in particular, the entrepreneurs in the continent, for sure.
So, okay, now this is taking us to your backstory a little bit, because 20 years ago, you lived there for a year. 20 years ago, you said, is when you left Canada, no?
Yeah, so I finished undergrad at University of Victoria. At the time, we had in Canada some sort of program that funded people, I think it was through CETA, the Development Association, to go to the continent for a year to some of the programs that CETA had funded. So I did that for a year. I then went to grad school. But after grad school, focused initially for the first almost decade on Africa and facilitating investment on the continent. So yeah, I've had a chance to.
Oh, amazing. You know this stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, I traveled to maybe 42 countries on the continent and got exposed to a lot of, mainly the business environment. And it colors how I approach entrepreneurship because a lot of it is constraint oriented. It's how do you do something with nothing? How do you build something with nothing? So yeah, a lot of
And those agencies, I mean, the whole purpose is to enable that, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Like even in Nairobi, we always used to see, this is one of the predominant ones, was JICA, right? The Japanese International Cooperation Agency.
Yeah.
And mainly it was, I think, technical.
Technical
they
support.
brought technical support out there. And it's fascinating because these are also I think that I'm going to dig up some of these stories and probably create some episodes with people who know about them to bring knowledge back to the country, because I think Canada has a long-standing history of helping the world in many ways. Whether it's sending peacekeepers to the UN or whether it's this kind of a thing, knowledge stuff. But how are we looking internally in our country to do this? You know?
Well, I think that's a really good point. I think for much of the last 50 years, Canada has seen itself as kind of engaged in the external world, really, and hasn't spent a ton of inward looking, hasn't invested inwardly, hasn't seen the political apparatus here as being dynamic or emergent.
Right.
In large part because kind of most of our reality was fixed. We had a massive neighbor. Our protection was largely dependent on them. The world was rules based. We contributed to the construction of that. It was sort of static, and we kind of took our eye off the ball a little bit. And I think you're seeing that now, of this rush to, okay, let's rethink what it means to be Canadian. Let's rethink what a Canadian business is. Let's rethink how we solicit investment, how we engage with, the QIAs of the world, or the PIFs, or the NATO allied countries. And I think the Prime Minister has done a very good job of kind of saying, actually, we need to sell ourselves. It's not just about selling what we know and have, but it's about selling what, we want investors or we want collaborators for. That I think has been not a natural impulse for us, really. So.
Yeah. Forging the ability to open doors, it takes effort. And I think this is the thing, is there has this legacy complacency for so many reasons, right? Like Canada is whether it's because it's a destination for refugee communities for so long, to just get here and be like, let's just breathe. And the next generation become professionals, right? The lesson from the parents is become a professional, play it safe, keep your head down, make that money, and just be quiet, right? Which is good to a point, unless that becomes the status quo. And then it's like, wait, we have an improper mix of talent across our economy.
Yeah, totally.
And then industries fail where, for whatever reasons, I see it, and I don't know much about this stuff across the board. I just do my business. But we have all of these amazing raw materials in this country, right? But extractive industries economically are by nature extractive. They don't necessarily trickle down throughout the economy. So we're somewhat impoverished despite our raw materials being desirable globally. That's one thing. Then the other thing is processing. We don't really process anything. Automotive is kind of a relative joke, I would assume, compared to our construction related industries in the 80s. Like wood products. Just lumber processing alone must have been a pretty sizable industry in the 80s.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I would say auto is we produce 1 of every 10 cars in North America. So the auto industry is there. But this point about how do you do the processing for critical minerals in particular, which is now obviously a massively hot topic, we should be incentivizing both the exploration, so increasing kind of the speed of permitting and places that we know have critical minerals, but then keeping that industry here and doubling down and crowding in capital, and frankly using the institutional wealth that we have, the pension funds, as kind of a huge capital base to invest back in the country. And I think not wanting to necessarily mandate that they do that, I think the current administration has done a good job of making the case for why it is in fact the best investment decision, why it's the best return on capital right now is investing in Canada. I think it's quite compelling.
What's very interesting is also kind of like the nature of investment is changing as well.
Yeah.
In terms of people's expectations on what a return on investment could be, given macroeconomic fluidity, right?
Yeah.
So I was talking to a venture capitalist on this show a few episodes ago, Kareem Galani, who's with Luge Capital.
Yeah.
And so he invests in fintech, and he was saying, we didn't invest in fintech for a while. We invested in the labor that could create the solutions that these fintech companies are bringing to market.
Yeah.
But the labor is not as necessary with scaffolding and AI and Claude Code and all these things, right?
Yeah.
So that's had us rethink our investment thesis, and it's happening across the board.
Yeah.
So similarly, I think this question of kind of calculative ROI for especially, it's interesting. Again, I don't know enough about it, but the way I look at it is pension funds are on a 100-year horizon? Is that what they plan on?
I mean, they plan on just getting a return for their contributors.
Sure.
But yeah, they have a unique and specific return profile that they're looking for. They're not necessarily always maximizing. Like diversification is critical, but yes.
But so it's on either ends of this thing where you've got like these guys that are looking for a 5 to 7 year, 100 or 1,000% return. And you got the steady eddies over here. There needs to be some means of articulating to all of them how a vision for the new Canada will be sustainable enough to deliver value.
Yeah.
And that's a piece I haven't seen. I see this like, let's get going with stuff, which is great. Momentum is nice. You want to spark that.
Yeah.
But I think this is incumbent upon all of us is to develop a kind of a future vision.
Yeah.
And again, also one that's not necessarily sitting, and I'll bring it back to defense a little bit, but like, that's not just sitting on ROI. Like a lot of people starting businesses that I talk to are trying to build widget factories, right? Everyone has this dream of kind of like infinite gain. But there's a lot to entrepreneurialism that's fulfilling when you don't have that mandate.
Yeah.
You can build phenomenal things that deliver society a lot of value and put money in your pocket.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, maybe this milieu of kind of like, what would you call it? Just like national pride.
Yeah. I think
is helpful.
It's massively helpful. I mean, I wouldn't have a business if people didn't have it. I think much of what is driving the investment into my company is people recognizing that in order to have the values, in order to have the institutions that we have, we need to invest in defense, and we need to not just invest in defense, but invest in the entrepreneurs and founders that are willing to do things that are a little bit outside the normal. We haven't had a big, venture investment community focused on defense here. We now know it's necessary.
The question is also, I have to ask it, is like, because you're also just getting started with your company, but like in an industry where most people are in the dark about and assume that it just kind of happens in the back of the room. So, you'll have no problems raising more money. It's just easy. No one else is doing it, or whatever else people think, right? But the question I have is about, with the government being your primary client, right? It is, like we said, large, and there's diversity to government offices. Maybe it's getting consolidated in this new agency. But like, how can an ecosystem in your world, the defense, kind of evolve constructively around the government in a reliable fashion? And what are the potential dangers of this or inabilities that are going to have to be?
I think it starts with the government being a good customer.
Yeah.
And the government learning how to be a good customer to a company like mine, which needs to raise an enormous amount of capital in a quick time period. Generally speaking, the government has not been a good customer in this industry, in large part because it takes them a long time to do the thing. That is now changing. And so I think the core unlock here will be when the government actually gives a company that's less than 5 years old $500 million, or when the first kind of
could that be equity investment?
Equity, or I mean, ideally, no, it's a procurement. But But like on the equity side, the other unlock is when a pension fund or a growth investor here in Canada backs a defense company and gives them $100 million. I think until and when that happens, we'll continue to have kind of lower productivity companies in the sector, which is really what we're pushing for. Is how do we get things going fast? How do you trust younger companies? Younger companies that have executive teams that have done 50 years of developing and build out. And then how do you get the growth investors to pony up for large rounds that are necessary? The U.S. has done over 900 venture investments in defense in the last 10 years. I think we've probably done, I don't know, maybe a dozen tops. So we've got a lot to do.
How is the the source of capital evolving, do you think, in Canada in terms of the structures of conventional VC funds?
Yeah.
And then the ability for LP money to go direct into investments?
Well, I think there's two ways to think about this. I mean, there were governance guidelines around not investing in defense, SIN industries. Those have been largely rewritten. And so that is not a constraint anymore.
So people haven't been able to invest in this
because
defense.
they've not been allowed to. Yeah, it was written into their LPA agreements.
But that's to avoid mixed kind of motives on the supply side?
No, it's to avoid investing in things that previously were perceived to be defense, military, kinetic, etc. They didn't want companies to invest in things that potentially kill people. That has now changed. That's not a constraint anymore. The constraint now is prior experience and knowledge of how do you value these companies in the sector that we haven't invested in. And I think that's going to take a couple of years. I mean, we are backed by some venture funds that had not done any defense investing, did their first investment in us. And they're learning rapidly. I mean, it's not a hard sector to figure out.
It's just that it hasn't been openly documented.
We haven't done it.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's always been opaque to the populace.
Yeah, exactly. And venture funds always operate off these sort of playbook models where they want to be able to have a prior and say, okay, this is like that. Let's just do that.
And just to spell it out, the word, because the word defense is not just about defense. It's about offense as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we're talking about, when you say defense as an industry, we're talking about military services, right?
Well, I mean, I think the best way to defend yourself is to have the offensive capability that may or may not be necessary in the event of a war. If the adversary knows that you can defend yourself through offensive means, kinetic means, the likelihood that they will attack is limited, or maybe not limited, but less.
Let's talk about that, just like blue sky it a little bit, okay? Your perspective on how war is changing in general.
Yeah.
And it could be decades out that you're looking ahead.
Yeah. But looking at the last 2 decades, so half of the last 2 decades was really about the global war on terror, and that was how do you address asynchronistic issues, a terrorist cell here, an individual there. And what mattered from a technology perspective was persistence and precision. Persistence and precision was really largely the confines of legacy companies that had a ability to invest in those things. It is a very hard thing, precision and persistence. It requires a lot of money. So this is when you've got the MQ-9 building out, you've got really substantial technologies. Around the so 2015, what you have are a series of proxy wars happening between the US, NATO countries, and non-NATO countries, Syria in particular. And those wars are a combination of attritable kind of dumb technology, so drones with grenades on them, and exquisite technologies that's when things start to change. You start to see the ability to affect an action, a kinetic event, with limited amounts of money. And the drone is sort of the center of this. Then you've got in 2020 this war, the Nagorno-Karabakh war, where, it's this random war that nobody really talks about anymore. But that entire war is over within 6 weeks, in large part because one of the participants in that war had precision strike from drones and collaborative combined arms. So, using different technologies in different domains, so airspace, ground, to take something out, a tank in this case. That collaboration across domains, I think, fundamentally transformed how we think about defense. And then obviously you've got Ukraine and Iran and elsewhere. And what you see with that is scale and mass, and the ability to produce really matters. So yeah, warfare has completely changed. I think where we're going is really largely networked mass, intelligent networked mass. And what I mean by that is the ability to produce things at a unit price that is comparable to what China can produce at, or what Russia or Iran can produce at. So talking sub $100,000 capabilities, making them intelligent, so making them speak with each other.
So scary.
And then conducting an action based on that. Yeah, it is.
So the means of hyper-targeting people becomes...
Or hyper-targeting assets.
Yeah, let's call them assets.
Well, I mean, I'm saying like radars, or obviously also...
It could be technology,
people,
It could be technology, it could be infrastructure, it could be whatever. It could be people. But hyper-targeting becomes massively efficient to the best of... to an infinite efficiency level. And then the costs of targeting or of destroying things, blowing shit up, becomes really affordable.
Yep.
So then everyone just stops and says, okay, cool, we'll be friends.
Well, what you see in Ukraine kind of these stalemates with episodic bouts of violence. It's a slow war, it done quickly, meaning there's these sort of intense bouts of taking land, and you sort of see technology being deployed every other week and changing the nature of the war. That is something that Canada is not ready for. I think we know that we're not ready for it, but we need to get ready for it. The U.S. is attempting to kind of turn the Titanic, but they're not also. So yeah, it is terrifying. And it's why, we're building Dominion.
Exciting. So are you excited?
Well, not for that, but yes, for building the business, we are. And I'm excited to contribute and kind of rebuild the industry in Canada for sure.
What are other top of mind examples? I know you named a few things, but that you've seen across Canada, a couple examples of technology companies that are building really innovative, globally innovative, new solutions in the industry.
Yeah. I mean, I think you've got a ton of great companies in the quantum space. Canada is really a world leader. I sit on the board of Xanadu. I'm obviously partial to Christian and the team there. But there's tons of fantastic.
But specifically for defense?
There are defense applications.
Okay.
There's cyber applications for quantum for sure. There's material science applications. There are more positive examples as well. I think you've got interesting companies in attritable cruise missiles like North Vector Dynamic. It's a Calgary-based company. You've got 3 launch companies doing incredible things. NORAD Space, Canada Rocket Company, and Reaction Dynamics. You've got fantastic space-based companies like Wyvern and Kepler. You've got a bunch of very impressive boat companies out there, and Vigo, and a bunch of others that are doing really interesting things. And then you have a bunch of related tangential companies operating in the AI ML world. Cohere obviously dominates that world, but Wabi as well is a giant in that ecosystem, the autonomy ecosystem. But we need like 10x more.
Yeah.
And we need our investors to double down on Canada and Canadians to do that, I think. Otherwise, they're just going to raise money from the States, which could be good as well, but I'd like to see them raise from the Canadians.
We don't want to see a brain drain. We want to see the opposite of that.
Exactly. We want to see a brain gain. Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. We didn't talk at all about your career history leading up to the foundation of this company. Are there some highlights you just want to rattle off to do with things that might have led you specifically to this point? The prime to want to be Canadian again.
Yeah.
And then also your domain expertise with defense and knowing the industry.
Yeah. I mean, I've been operating in defense for the last decade and a half or so. I initially was with a company called McLarty Associates, which was set up by former chief of staff to President Clinton, Mac McLarty, and actually Henry Kissinger. I got a chance to work with Director of National Intelligence, a guy named John Negroponte, really exposed me to the world of national security and IC, the intelligence community. And then, one of our customers, one of our clients was Anduril. And so joined Anduril as an early employee, helped build out the DC, Europe, Middle East offices, and got to see what, high-speed defense company looked like. And that, experience never really goes away. Once you've seen it, that's the only thing you can see. And so when you think about building a company, you just think about, okay, well, let me do it faster, better than them. And so that's where, the drive and interest came for Dominion is, well, I can do that. Let me do it for my country. So yeah.
So faster, better than Anduril.
Faster, better than Anduril. Let's do it.
In Canada.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah.
It was amazing to have you in studio, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Right.